economic sanctions to get North Korea to the negotiating table. But will this work with Iran when it comes to making a revised nuclear deal, considering that as far as other countries are concerned, it is in compliance?
Well, good morning, Anne-Marie. Good morning, Errol. Great to be back with you. There's no need to actually pivot to North Korea because the penalties that the president has actually sought to restore after leaving the JCPOA nuclear deal are the exact same penalties that were in force in U.S. law prior to the nuclear deal and were waived by the nuclear deal. And it was those penalties that helped drive the Iranians to the table. So simply by resurrecting that legal architecture.
Do you ever wonder why these mainstream media, these CBS News, why they don't just start right off by saying, well, we've been fucking around in Iran forever, we've been overthrowing their governments and making them, and hiring dictators, Shah of Iran and all these people, so that we could just fuck them over, really, is all that it's about. To steal from them, loot the country, turn it into an opium manufacturing, like we do with Afghanistan. So I mean, they never start off by pointing that out, because I mean, really, what use context, right? Okay, so what he just said was re-fucking ridiculous, okay? I mean, it's not just ridiculous, it's re-fucking ridiculous, because they're looking at it from the standpoint of Trump. Like, there's something that we can do other than, like, nuke them or bomb them, like we did with Iraq. Like, there's anything we could possibly do to these people that would make them completely back down and let them go back to pre-revolution. I mean, we created basically what is like the Taliban in Iran. We created that uprising, the Ayatollah. We did that by years of the Savak torturing and murdering people, disappearing. They would show up in the middle of the night in front of your house and just break down the door, drag your husband out, and you'd never see him again. And this happened all the time. But specifically what I'm talking about here is what we're doing right now, what Trump is doing, by completely isolating them economically and crushing everything that we can around them, cutting their arms and legs off as far as their existence in a capitalist world, is just making them stronger. Right now what they're doing is they're completely removing themselves from anything that has to do with America. And they will adapt. Their economy will adapt. If some people die, maybe. I don't know. I doubt it. Not because of that. But they will get together with Russia and Venezuela and Cuba. And in fact, the whole world, really, is coming together to fight this imperialism, this colonialism that is still left over. It's become an economic system. Europe is the head of it's the octopus, and America and Canada and Australia and all these other people are the tentacles. And they have managed to control the world. They almost took over the world. They pretty much have basically what would have become a one world government. all run by rich people, which means that people like us, the people, would have been screwed, right? I mean, we are, but we would have been really screwed if nobody stood up to them. Or they didn't even so much stand up to them as they did went out on their own. So, like, pretend like I'm a Russian and the government and the establishment is the establishment. It would be the equivalent to me traveling north out into the remote wilderness in Canada and trying to survive on my own. So that's what all these other countries are doing. And what's happening is everybody, let's say the rest of the people in the United States or all the other countries, and they're all looking at me going, you know what? I think I'd rather go with him. They are. That's what they're doing. A lot of countries are now saying, you know what? Do we really need the leadership, the leadership of the United States anymore? I mean, can't we just form our own monetary system, our own banking system, our own legal system? And aren't we better off? Gee, you know what? We are. And that's what's happening. So, all of this stuff that Trump is doing, and, you know, the establishment Democrats are just as guilty as him and the Republicans. They're all forcing all these countries to innovate and adapt. And that will result in two different systems, and Europe and all of its United States, all of its tentacles, will find themselves very much alone in a world that they're not a majority of anymore. And what's going to happen? Sooner or later, that other world, the Russia, Cuba, and 100 other countries, as opposed to maybe 50 countries, well, they're going to become the bigger and more powerful thing, because they are bigger in terms of how many countries, how big, just taking land mass, how much they cover the globe. And as they develop their economies, and their economies are younger and underdeveloped, so they're going to and eventually all these countries like Brazil, Colombia, you know, whatever, in Mali, all these ones that the United States as proxy for Europe is desperately holding our thumb down on, well, they're going to slip out from underneath us. And the whole world will join with this new power that's rising, right? And eventually they'll become very high-tech and very powerful and militarily. And you know what? America, if we don't, and Europe too, all of you, all white people in general, if we don't stop this insanity, the small group of wealthy people, the monarchs and all these oligarchs all over the decades, if we don't take power from them and cut a deal with this new rising power, we're going to have to fight it. And I don't see anybody winning that battle, and I can't stand the idea that we would blow up the world. I remember one time I was in one of my episodes, I talked to you about how I stood up for one of my Jewish friends love him to death, David Lieberman. But, you know, I said to him one day, I said, you know, David, from what I understand, you know, you guys would basically nuke everybody if you lost, you know, saw yourselves losing a war. And he said what I guess most Israelis or Jews, Zionists, I guess, would say. And he said, well, if we're going down, what do we care if the whole world goes down? A little bit different subject, but that's basically what the United States might do if it's stuck in a situation where it won't back down from this evil that we have, the establishment, the oligarchy. If it is in control and it won't back down from the rest of the world, and the rest of the world's just like, hey man, enough, you know. So maybe it'll be Vietnam, or maybe it'll be Democratic Republic of Congo, or whatever. And the United States just says, no, we're not going to back down, we're not going to let you have it. We're not going to let you free it from our tyranny. Well, you know, that could lead to, that could set off a nuclear war, right? A world war. Hey, I don't know. I don't pretend to be able to tell the future, but you can kind of connect the dots, you know, and see, you can kind of guess at what might happen. And our oligarchy, our tyranny, our tyrants, our establishment sure does show a lot of really bad traits that make people lose confidence in the future. I think we should get them under control rather than making the world deal with us, because it's going to deal with us. It's not going to just deal with them. It's not going to be able to just take them out. It's going to take us out, and we're probably going to take them out too. This is not a good thing.